हरिः ओम् नमः सर्वेभ्यः। अद्य कृदन्तप्रकरणस्य 87तमः पाठः। अस्मिन् वर्गे निष्ठाप्रत्ययोः प्रक्रियायां जायमानस्य त्रिपादिकार्यस्य अध्ययनम् अग्रे अनुवर्तिष्यते। येनाक्षरसमाम्नायम् अधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयं नमस्कृत्य तदुक्तिः परिभाव्य च वैयाकरणसिद्धान्तकौमुदीयं विरच्यते। त्रिपाद्याः अध्ययनं निष्ठाप्रक्रियायां त्रिपाद्याः अध्ययनम् इदानीं प्रचलत् अस्ति। पूर्वस्मिन् वर्गे तत्र त्रिपाद्याम् अस्माभिः प्रवेशः कृतः। पदान्ते नो चेत् झलि परे कीदृशं कार्यं भवति, तत्र तकारः निष्ठातकारः झल् वर्णः अस्ति, अस्मिन् झलि परे कीदृशं कार्यं भवति इति सर्वम् अधीतं। तदनन्तरं निष्ठातकारस्य आदेशानां विषये आदिस्थानि कानिचन सूत्राणि दृष्टानि। तदाभ्यां निष्ठातो नः पूर्वस्य च तः संयोगादेरातो धातोर्यण्वतः ल्वादिभ्यः तथा च अग्रे विद्यमानाः अस्य केचन अपवादाः न ध्याख्याप्रूमूर्च्छिमदां वित्तं भोगप्रत्ययोः तथा च भित्तं शकलम्। एतानि सूत्राणि दृष्टानि। किञ्चित् झटिति पुनरावर्तनं कृत्वा अग्रे सरामः। तत्र प्रथमं सूत्रं रदाभ्यां निष्ठातो नः पूर्वस्य च दः। मुख्यं सूत्रं निष्ठातकारस्य आदेशप्रकरणस्य रेफदकाराभ्यां परस्य निष्ठातस्य नः स्यात् यत्र धातोः अन्ते दकारः विद्यते नो चेत् अन्ते रेफः विद्यते तस्मात् परः यः निष्ठातकारः तस्य नकारादेशः भवति। रदाभ्यां निष्ठातः नः नो चेत् पूर्वस्य च दः इत्यपि तत्र अग्रे अस्ति। तत्र पूर्वः यः दकारः अस्ति तस्यापि नकारादेशः भवति। So if you have a the, both of them get converted to na, so it is a double nakara. If you have a repha, only the pratyaya gets converted to na, and then it will obviously get converted to ana. अग्रिमं सूत्रं संयोगादेरातो धातोर्यण्वतः। तत्र धातुः संयोगादिः स्यात् आकारान्तः स्यात् तथा च धातौ कुत्रचित् यण्वर्णः भवेत्। 3 important conditions अस्यां स्थितौ। तस्मात् उत्तरस्य निष्ठातकारस्य नकारादेशः भवति। द्रै ग्लै स्तै इत्येतानि सर्वाणि अस्माभिः उदाहरणानि दृष्टानि। इत्यत्र सर्वत्र यद्यपि मूलधातुः एजन्तः अस्ति तथापि प्रारंभे एव आदेशोपदेशेषिति इत्यनेन तस्य आकारादेशः भवति। अतः संयोगादेरातोः इत्यस्य सूत्रस्य विषये अवश्यं प्रसक्तिः भवितुं शक्यते। तस्य अग्रे त्रीणि निषेधसूत्राणि अपि दृष्टानि। न ध्याख्याप्रूमूर्च्छिमदां ध्याख्याप्रूमूर्च्छिमद इत्येतेषां निष्ठातकारस्य नकारादेशः निषिध्यते। तत्र ध्यै नो च ख्या इत्येतयोः विषये संयोगादेरातो धातोर्यण्वतः इत्यनेन प्राप्तः नकारः निषिध्यते। प्रू मूर्छ तथा मद इत्येतेषां विषये रदाभ्यां निष्ठातो नः पूर्वस्य च दः इत्यनेन प्राप्तः नकारादेशः निषिध्यते। अग्रिमं सूत्रं वित्तः भोगप्रत्यययोः विद धातुः षष्ठगणस्य धातुः विन्दति इति रूपम्। अस्य धातोः वित्तम् इति रूपं निपात्यते। भोगं धनम् इति अर्थः तथा च प्रत्ययः ज्ञानी मनुष्यः इति अर्थः। एतयोः अर्थयोः वित्त इति शब्दः निपात्यते। अन्यत्र विन्न इति भवति। वस्तुतः धातुः सेट् अस्ति परन्तु विभाषागमः न विदविषाम् इत्यत्र अस्य निर्देशेन क्वसु प्रत्यये परे अस्मात् धातोः इडागमः विकल्प्यते। अतः यस्य विभाषा इति निष्ठायाम् इडागमः निषिध्यते। तृतीयं निषेधसूत्रं भित्तं शकलं। तत्र भित्तम् इति शब्दः अस्माभिः दृष्टः। भिद धातोः क्त प्रत्यये कृते भित्तं भवति। काशिकायां तु तत्र केवलं धातोः आधारेण अर्थस्य आधारं न स्वीकृत्य भित्त इति शब्दः सिद्ध्यति इत्येव वचनम्, अन्यत्र तु भिन्न। तदनन्तरं वर्गस्य अन्ते अस्माभिः ल्वादिभ्यः इति सूत्रम् अधीतं। ल्वादि इति क्रयादिगणस्य कश्चन अन्तर्गणः, अ सब ग्रुप ऑफ द 9th गण। तत्र लुञ्छेदने इत्येतत् प्रभृति व्रीवर्णे, so some 21 or 24 धातुस् आर देयर। एतेभ्यः धातुभ्यः विहितस्य निष्ठातकारस्य नकारादेशः भवति। अस्ति अपि सर्वाणि उदाहरणानि दृष्टानि। So the four most important sutras of the Nishtha Prakaranam are these first four. Pradabhyam nishthato naha purvasya chadaha sanyogade rato dhator yarmataha lvadibhyaha. And what we will start today is this fourth one, Oditascha. So these are the four primary sutras. Rest all are specific to individual dhatus. So we will take them once our Oditascha sutra gets completed. So I actually wanted to cover Oditascha in the last class, but samayabhavat asmabhi tad na krutam. Atha prarabhamahe. Sutra is simple, but there is some interesting shastra charcha associated with it. Oditascha iti sutram पूर्वमपि अस्माभिः दृष्टमस्ति एकवारम्. ओदित् इति धातुः, यः धातुः सः धातुः यस्मिन् ओकारः इत्संज्ञकः अस्ति. So you can go to the dhatu patha. You can go to the Anubandha and you can search Odit over here. A bunch of dhatus, around 18 dhatus over here are Odit. You can see all of them. 2 O's, Furja, Opyai, Shamo, Oi. Sometimes O is at the end, sometimes O is at the beginning, sometimes O is in the middle. 2 Oshvi. So all possible variations you can see over here. But this Okara, if such an Okara is itsamnyak in the dhatu, then the dhatu will be called Odit dhatu. Or such an Odit dhatu, the whole and sole purpose of adding that Okara in the Aupadeshika form of the dhatu is to allow the nishtha natvam. So Okaretah dhatoho uttarasya nishtha takarasya nakara desha bhavati. There is no other reason for Panini to add an O in the dhatu. So the fact that there is an O sitting over there means there will be a nishtha natvam. So O lasji lagnaha or lagnavan ubhayatra. O viji udvignaha udvignavan uday iti upasargah asti. Opyayi apinaha and so on. So these are all these 18 Odit dhatus. In addition, there is a Gana Sutram over here which says Swadayah Oditaha. So there is a specific subgroup of the fourth Gana which is termed as Swadayah. Understand this. There is a specific Gana called Swadi Gana in Dhatu Patha. That is not what is being discussed over here. We have 10 main Ganas of Dhatu Patha. The fifth of them is called Swadi Gana. That Swadi Gana is not what we are talking about. There is a Gana Sutram, or there is what you can say Vartika or whatever, which says Swadayah Oditaha. There is a subgroup of Divadi Gana. Fourth Gana has a subgroup. So you actually go to the Antar Gana section over here. The second drop down and you go all the way. This is alphabetical order. There is a Swadi present all the way at the end. This is the Swadi Gana. Let's cancel that Odit because the previous filter was continuous. Okay, so now the only filter that we have is the Swadi, which is the Antar Gana filter. And there are 9 dhatus. All of them are of the Divadi Gana. So Swadayah Oditaha ityanena Swadiganasya sarve navadhatavaha api Oditaha eva santi iti jnatavyam. We do not have Okara itsamnyaka in them, but just by this Gana Sutra they get the Okara itsamnyaka, or they become Odita. So then he gives certain examples. On the right hand side of the slide I actually have both the examples. So original Odita dhatus are 18 of them, and then the Swadis, which are a subgroup of Divadis, there are some 9 of them. So Shung becomes a Suna, Ding becomes a Dina, Ring becomes a Rina, and so on. So you can see over here Shung, Dung, Ding, 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 and so on. All are Nit, 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 and so on. So you just very simple. You just say Ring plus Ta, Ling plus Ta, and then you do a Nakara Desha over there. So etesham sarvesham vishaye nishtha takarasya nakara deshaha bhavati. All these examples Kashika has given. Let's read Kaumudi also. Bhuja, Bhagna, Bhujo iti asti, Odit asti, Bhagna, Bhugnaha, Tu Oshvi, Utshunaha, Ohak, Prahinaha. So he is giving various. So look at the examples also, how beautifully have been picked up. Bhujo, there is an Okara at the end. To Oshvi, there is an Okara in the middle. Ohak, there is an Okara in the beginning. So all various possible examples he has picked up. Then he says there is a Gana Sutram. Gana Sutram is a small sutram that occurs within the Dhatu Patha itself. Swadayaha Oditaha. the verbs of the Swadi Gana, which is the subset of the fourth Gana, are all Odita. Then he gives examples, Sunaha, Dunaha, and so on. Odin madhye dingah path samarthyat na it. So if you go to this ding dhatu over here, it's actually a set dhatu, but he says because this dhatu is in the Swadi Gana, if you add an idagama over there, then there will not be a nishthanatvam according to him over here. So he says Odin madhye ding samarthyat na it. So even if the dhatu is also one of the special cases, I'll talk about this particular special case later on when we talk about a list of special dhatus in probably next week. I'll come to this point once again. So we can keep this as it is and go ahead. So this is the basic account of Oditascha Sutram. 4 important sutras this way. Radabhyam nishtha to naha purvasya chadaha sanyogade rato dhato ho yanavataha lvadibhyaha and Oditascha. Asmat agre yani kani sutrani vidyante vishishta dhatunam vishaye tatra nishtha-takarasya adesha vidhanam krutam asti. So look at this. Kshiyo dirghat, it's about kshi dhatu. Shyo asparshe, it's about shai dhatu. Ancho anapadane, it's about anchu dhatu. Go a little bit below. Pacho vaha, it's about pacha dhatu. Go a little bit once again below. Nuda, vida, unda. So list of dhatus are there. Nuda, vida, trai, gra. So all these particular sets of sutras talk about individual specific dhatus. The 4 most important sutras are these first 4. Now, before we jump on to the next one, Kshiyo, Dirghat, Sho, Asparshe and all that, which is individual list of dhatus, there is some interesting Shastra Vishaya or some interesting aspect in the Prakriya that I wanted to discuss specifically related to this Oditascha Sutram. So let's scroll a little bit above and look at this particular Sutram 8 to 36, which is a very well-known Sutram for all of us. We have already studied it in last week also. Vrascha bhrajya srijam ruja yajaraja bhrajya chasam shaha. Ityanena sutrena kimuchyate? Ityanena sutrena shatvam bhavati. Kada bhavati? Padante no ched jhali pare bhavati. So if we can skip the padanta part for now because this is not related to the Kridanta Prakriya. So yatra jhal varnaha agre asti tatra etesham sarvesham vishaye shakara desha bhavati. Let's take another step back and take a look at some of these dhatus. Vrascha, bhrasja, smruja, sruja, mruja, yaja, raja, bhraja. All these dhatus are cha vargiyanta dhatus. Cha or ja, ending with a cha or ja. For these dhatus, if we scroll a little bit above, we basically have a sutram called chohokuhu. Chohokuhu iti sutrena jhal varne pare dhatoho ante vidyamanasya chakarasya kakaradeshaha no cha vargiya varnasya ka vargiya varnadeshaha bhavati. So pacha becomes pakka. So cha will become ka, ja will become ga, and so on. At that particular time, I also mentioned that chohokuhu iti sutrasya apavada rupena vrasja bhrasja iti sutram vidhiyate. Vrasja bhrasja will cause a shatvam, so the last letter will become a sh. Now, if chohokuhu has to appear for all these dhatus, then condition is the same, padante jhalipare versus padante jhalipare. So there was no reason for Acharya to give this particular sutram. So clearly by the Vidhana Samarthya, we would like to execute this sutram at some point in time. Therefore, chohokuhu ityasya apavada rupena vrasja bhrasja iti sutram atra pravartate. Ataha sarvesham bhrasja smruja mruja sruja mruja etesham dhatunam vishaye jhalipare yada karyam karaniyam tada chohokuhu ityasya prayogaha na bhavati apitu shatvam kriyate vrasja bhrasja iti sutrena. तस्मिन् समये अस्य सूत्रस्य अध्ययन समये व्रश्च धातोः विषये मया कश्चन विशेषः तत्र उक्तः आसीत्. For the vrascha sutram, we somehow do not get the prasakti of this sutra. On the other hand, we actually get the prasakti of this chohokuhu. So vrascha is a very specific dhatu only in the nishtha prakriya, not other jhalipare karyas, but only in the nishtha prakriya. for this particular vrascha dhatu, we do not get the execution of this particular sutram, vrascha, bhrasja, and so on. Now, the reason of that particular point, which I just mentioned without going into details, is very closely related to this Oditascha Sutra that we just now saw. So before we move ahead, let's understand this vrascha dhatu in the dhatu patha. We can just say vrascha. So this vrascha dhatu from the Divadi Gana is actually an Odita dhatu. It is O vraschu. Therefore, for this particular vrascha dhatu, we have the prasakti of Oditascha Sutra that we just now discussed. Fair enough, there is no problem. The two sutras are completely different. So vrasja bhrasja is doing the shatva of the dhatu, whereas Oditascha is doing the natva of the pratyaya. The two sutras are different. There is no reason to have any kind of conflict of any kind of race conditions or whatever. But it turns out that there is a Vartika which is given in 823 in Kashika, somewhere else in Kaumudi. There is a very specific and a weird Vartika given by Vartikakara specifically for two dhatus in the dhatu patha. Out of all 2000 dhatus, a very complex looking Vartika has been given whose application is there only for two or maximum three or four dhatus, not beyond that. So the Vartikam reads something like this. Nishtha deshaha shattva swara pratyaya idvidhishu siddhaha vachaha. The Vartika says the nishtha desha, the adesha done to the nishtha pratyayas is siddha. What kind of siddha? We are not talking about Tripadi. So all the parasutras are asiddha towards the purva sutras in the Tripadi. So in order to have an exception to that particular flow in 823, so we start 821 by saying purvatra siddham, and then even before we start with the actual rules of purvatra siddham, we so what Maharshi does is he lists certain exceptions. So he says 821 is purvatra siddham, 822 is nalopa supsara samnyatuk videshu kriti. So that's exception for the purvatra siddham. 823 na mune is another exception for purvatra siddham, na bhave kartavye mubhavaha asiddhaha nasti. So he is initially listing a bunch of exceptions for purvatra siddham. In one of these sutras, 823, a Vartika has been inserted as yet another exception for purvatra siddham. What kind of exception? Nishtha desha. The Vartikam is so general and it looks so powerful, but the actual application is restricted to some 3 or 4 dhatus in the entire dhatu patha. Understand this. Nishtha desha. The sutras that give the adesha to the nishtha pratyaya. Essentially, in our chart, all these yellow colored sutras, nishtha takarasya adesha, whatever has been written in this yellow background, all these sutras, they are siddha towards a bunch of vidhis. What vidhis? The shatva vidhi, the swara vidhi, the pratyaya vidhi, and the idagama vidhi. Look how general this particular Vartikam is. The conversion of a nishtha takara to whatever. It can be nishtha takara se nakara desha, or it can be something else. The conversion of nishtha takara to something else, that particular conversion is siddha, is seen towards what? Is seen by the Shatva Sutra, the Swara Sutra. Swara Sutras are all the way in 6.1, 6.2. The Pratyaya Vidhanam, say Tadhita Pratyaya has to be added somewhere from 5th chapter. Those kind of sutras. Id Vidhishu, Idagama, which is in 7.2. So for all these sutras, Etesham Sarvesham Vishaye Atra Tripadi Siddhasti, Tripadi Tyukte Tripadyaha Nishtadesha Vishishtani Sutrani Tatra Siddhani Sandhi. So such a generally, such a broad scope Vartika, we never studied. When we studied Idagama, we didn't study that. Or when, for example, in case of pratyayas, which are much earlier in Tripadi, we should have studied that earlier if it was really important for Swara, Pratyaya, and so on. So it turns out that even though this Vartika is grand looking, the actual application of this Vartika, whether it is Siddha or Asiddha, the real difference will appear if that Siddhatva causes some difference in the Prakriya. If the prakriya is eventually going to same, who cares whether it is siddha or asiddha? So that particular difference in the prakriya is specifically only for 3 or 4 dhatus, and therefore we are studying this vartikam over here. So one of these dhatus is this vrashcha dhatu in the discussion. So coming back to the vartikam, nishtha Shatva vidhehe vishaye siddha asti. What is this Shatva vidhi? The Shatva vidhi is exactly this Vrashja Bhrashja Sutra, the Shatva vidhi given by this Vrashja Bhrashja Sutra. So Vrashja Bhrashja Sutra is actually 8 to 36. It is earlier in the Tripadi. The Nishtatakarasya Adeshaha are little bit later on. So technically, by going by the flow of Tripadi, the Vrashja Bhrashja Sutram cannot see all these Radhabhyam, Nishthato, Naha and other sutras. However, because of this particular Vartikam, the Nishtha Takarasya Adesha Vidhayakani Sutrani are seen, are known by the Shatva related Sutram. What difference does it make? The difference that it makes is that now for a sutram, for a dhatu like vrashcha, when you have the shatva being applied on the dhatu, and when you have the say pratyayasya adesha being applied on the pratyaya, we have a simultaneous prasakti of these two particular sutras, and obviously by the purva para nyaya we will end up in picking the parasutram first. And therefore, because Shatva and the entire section of Nishthatakara, specifically we are talking about Oditascha in this current context. So because Vrashja Bhrashja and Oditascha are Siddha, both of them Siddha towards each other, we can always say Paratvat Oditascha iti Sutram Prathamam Pravartate. Even if we don't say Paratvat, we can say because it is Siddha, by the samarthya of being Siddha, the Oditascha will come first. And therefore, understand what happens for this particular Vrashcha Dhatu. This particular Vartikam is only applicable for this Vrashcha, the Shatva part of this particular Vartikam is only applicable to this Vrashcha Dhatu, because it is only this Vrashcha Dhatu which has the Nishtha Takarasya Adeshaha. For all the other dhatus, there is no nishtha takarasya adeshaha. So for none of these dhatus, this conflict really matters. Vrashcha is the only dhatu in this sequence which has a shatva function and which has a nishtadesha function. So intersection of nishtadesha and intersection and shatva. When you look at all these dhatus, only the Vrashcha dhatu can fit into those intersections, and therefore this is a special dhatu. So what happens for this special dhatu? We start with this O Vrashchu Chedane, normal Itsamya removal and all that. Vrashcha plus the first thing is Samprasaranam Grahijyavi Anina Sutrana Samprasaranam Bhavati. That is all the way earlier, that anyway has to be done. So you do the Samprasaranam. You do Skoho Sanyogadyorantecha, because Skoho Sanyogadyorantecha is even much earlier. So for example, here Skoho Sanyogadyorantecha is there even before Vrashcha Bhrashja. So even before you come to Shatva and talk about the mutual Siddhatva, you get rid of this Sakara by Skoho Sanyogadyorantecha. So Sa goes away and you get Vricha plus Ta. Now some interesting magic starts. At this particular point in time, understand this point carefully. Vricha plus ta ityatra sarva prathamam choho kuhu iti kutvam pravartate. We will go step by step. When you have vricha plus ta, we will get choho kuhu iti kutvam. Tasya praptihi asti prarambe. Not necessarily pravartate. Prathamam tasya praptihi asti. Now, as soon as vricha plus ta comes over there, the apavada of vricha plus the apavada of choho kuhu, Vrashja Bhrashja immediately pops up. So as soon as you have Choho Kuhu and you have Vrashcha Dhatu, Vrashja Bhrashja Sutra immediately comes over there and says, hold on, Choho Kuhu cannot act. I am the Apavada of Choho Kuhu. I would like to act first. So Choho Kuhu says, okay, you are granted the exception. So you can go ahead and act on this Vricha Dhatu, Vruka plus Ta. This is what would happen normally. However, at this particular point in time, as soon as Vrashja Bhrashja comes up and says that I am Apavada of Choho Kuhu and therefore I would like to act, the nishtha adesha sutra also appears over there, because nishtha adesha is siddha towards the vrajya bhrajya. So vrajya bhrajya is aware of the nishtha adesha oditascha, and so oditascha also immediately comes over there, and vrajya bhrajya gives its way to oditascha because of siddhatva, because of paratva. So understand this. You have chohokuhu. Chohokuhu gives its way to vrajya bhrajya. Vrajya bhrajya gives its way to oditascha. But as soon as vrajya bhrajya gives its way to oditascha, vrajya bhrajya retracts itself. Obviously, only one sutram will act. So vrajya bhrajya says, okay, I will give my way to oditascha, and vrajya bhrajya will retract itself. Now comes the real magic. As soon as vrajya bhrajya retracts itself, chohokuhu comes up again. Chohokuhu says that I had given my way to vrajya bhrajya. Vrajya bhrajya has retracted itself. It retracted for whom? It retracted for nishtadesha, oditascha. But oditascha is asiddha towards me. We never say oditascha is siddha towards chohokuhu. Oditascha is only siddha towards the nishtha, only siddha towards the shatva. So what chohokuhu says is, as long as vrajya bhrajya was acting, I give my way to vrajya bhrajya. But if vrajya bhrajya sits down, if it retracts, then I will definitely act over there, because I don't care for what reason vrajya bhrajya sits down. I do not identify any sutra called oditascha. It is asiddha towards me. Therefore, at this particular point in time, chohokuhu act, and it will give you kutvam. So understand this. Vrucha plus ta ityatra prarambhe chohokuhu iti kutve prapte apavadatvena. So kutvasya apavadatvena. This should be kutvasya apavadatvena. Vrashya bhrajya ityanena shtvam bhavet. So that's step number one. Kutva allows vrashya bhrajya to take its position or to take the effect. Parantu asya shatvasya nishthanattvena badhaha bhavati. But oditascha is going to block the vrashya bhrajya, and vrashya bhrajya understands it, vrashya bhrajya accepts it, vrashya bhrajya sits down. It says, I will not act because I have given the way to oditascha. So nishthanattvena tasya badhaha bhavati. But kutvasya vishaye tu ayam niyamah na ityukte nishthanatvam kutvam prati asiddhameva. All that chohokuhu understands is that vrajya bhrajya has retracted. It does not understand the real reason for which vrajya bhrajya has retracted. It does not understand oditascha, because oditascha is asiddha towards the chohokuhu. And therefore, all that chohokuhu sees is, I gave my way to vrajya bhrajya, but vrajya bhrajya retracted. Now I have a free scope of my application. Let me go and apply myself. So now vrucha plus ta asyam sthitau chohokuhu ityanena kutve prapte vruka plus ta iti bhavati. Tadanantaram oditasya ityasya prayogaha bhavati. So oditasya anyway comes, it's sitting in the line. Because vrashya bhrajya has given it away, it's still there in the line. It's just that it cannot cross the line and go before chohokuhu. So let's first do chohokuhu. Cha becomes ka. Then oditascha will convert ta to na. Then na will become na, because at kupvangnum vyavayeti, ka vargya letter is there. So vrukana iti atra antimam rupam siddhyati. So very beautiful prakriya, very beautiful interaction between three sutras of Tripadi, where first understands the second and second understands the third, but first does not understand the third, and therefore first takes precedence over third. Very unique example throughout the Ashtadhyayi. So nishtadeshaha shatvasya vishaye siddhaha vachyaha. This prakriya is the only prakriya where this particular vartikam is being seen used. Nishtadeshaha shatvasya vishaye siddhaha vachyaha. There are three more conditions over there. Swarasya vishaye, pratyaya vidhanasya vishaye, tatha cha idagamasya vishaye. These remaining three conditions, we will see them in tomorrow's class. Again, as I mentioned, one very obscure 2 or 3 dhatus are there for which this particular condition really matters. So, swara pratyaya idvidhishu ityasya udaharanani agre vyavariyante. Some 2 or 3 dhatus are there, I think, for which this idvidhishu or swara pratyaya idvidhishu really matters. Shatva matters only for this particular condition, and I have shown the prakriya over there. To quickly summarize in 30 seconds, चोः कुः इत्येतं सूत्रं बाधित्वा व्रजभ्रज इति सूत्रं प्रवर्तते, परन्तु व्रजभ्रज इति सूत्रं बाधित्वा ओदितश्च इति सूत्रं तत्र आगच्छति, परन्तु चोः कुः इत्यस्य कृते केवलं व्रजभ्रज इत्येव दृश्यते, ओदितश्च इति सूत्रमेव न दृश्यते, अतः चोः कुः इत्यस्य प्रारम्भे प्रसक्तिः भवति, तदनन्तरम् ओदितश्च इत्यस्य प्रसक्तिः भवति। चोः कुः इत्यनेन चकारस्य कुत्वम्, ओदितश्च इत्यनेन तकारस्य नत्वम्, अग्रे णत्वं कृत्वा नकारस्य णकारादेशं कृत्वा वृक्कण इति रूपं सिद्ध्यति। So this is the whole story of one very particular vrascha dhatu in this entire tripadi process. Agre gacchamaha. So after this particular point, what we have is the list of individual sutras, individual dhatus. Very simple list of sutras, no prakriya. Just need to understand the context and the sutras. So kshiyo dirghat, shaha asparshe, ancho napadane, tivo vijigishayam, nirvano vate. Let's take this 5 sutras to start with. The next ones, if you look at starting with shushaha kaha, it changes the adesha. Till this nirvano vate, we have nishtha takarasya nakara, nakara, nakaradesha, nakaradesha, nakaradesha. Right from the next sutra, we see kakaradesha. Then there is a vakaradesha. Then there is a makaradesha. Then there is another makaradesha. So different adeshas start coming up. These non-nakara adeshas we will take in tomorrow's class. In today's class, let's have these 5 sutras over here. Kshiyo dirghat, shaha asparshe, anchona padane, divo vijgishayam, nirvano vate. And then there are a bunch of sutras a little bit later. Rudamadhamaranye and this nuda vindon datra grahibhyodnitarasyam. Again, you can see there is a nakara over here. So in all the sutras where the nakara is present as an adesha, we will take them today. All other sutras where a different adesha is present, we will take them in tomorrow's class. So prarabhamahe. So this is the list of all those special dhatus. Vishishta dhatubhyaha nishtha takarasya nakaradesha. I just ran you through the list of sutras also. Shi, shai, ancha, diva. Basically, summary table is there for you. Final form is also kept in front of you. प्रारभामहे तत्र प्रथमं सूत्रमस्ति क्षियो दीर्घात् इति पुनरेकवारं पश्यामः अत्र ओदितश्च इति अस्माभिः अधीतम् अग्रिमं सूत्रमस्ति क्षियो दीर्घात् इति 3 kshi dhatus are there in dhatu patha. For all these 3 dhatus this particular sutram is applicable. So kshi kshye bhadihi, kshi himsayam swadihi, kshi nivasagatyoho tudadihi. This particular kshi dhatu, if somewhere in the prakriya asya dhatoho dirghadeshaha bhavati, if, so that's the condition, kshi dhatoho dirghadeshaha bhavati chet nishtha takarasya nakaradeshaha bhavati. The standalone kshi dhatu will not cause ta to convert into na, but somewhere if the dirghadesha happens before, in the steps before tripadi, so kshiyaha dhatoho dirghat uttarasya nishtha takarasya nakaradeshaha bhavati. Now when is this kshi dhatu going to become dirgha? Go back to the step of angakarya. We have the sutra nishtayam anyadarthe over here. In the section 4 of samanyam angakarya, we had nishtayam anyadarthe. For the kshi dhatu, when the nishtha pratyaya is used in a non-bhava karmani sense. Remember this very peculiar phrase, anyadarthe. We have studied this. Nyat pratyasya artham vihaya anyeshu artheshu. Nyat pratyasya kaha arthaha? Bhave nochet karmani iti nyat pratyasya artha. Krutya samyaka ruhalornyata. That's the nyat pratyaya we are talking about. That nyat pratyaya comes in bhave and karmani. Barring these arthas, you can have adhikarana, you can have kartari, other arthas. We have seen multiple arthas of nishtha. So anyadarthe nishtha pratyayaha anyadarthe prayujyate chet dirghadeshaha bhavati. So kartari, if you have a kta pratyaya for kshi, it will become kshi. If you have adhikarane, it will become kshi. the normal bhava and karmani, it will normal be rasva kshi. So in this context, the nishtha natva is now related. If that particular sutram causes a dirghadesha, then ta will become na. If that particular sutram does not cause a dirghadesha, then ta will not become na. So all the three dhatus eteshnam angasya nisthayam anyadarthe ityanena bhava karma bhinne nishtha pratyaye pare dirghadeshah bhavati. आक्रोशे दैन्ये गम्यमाने च वाक्रोश दैन्ययोः इति अयं विकल्प्यते. The immediate next sutra, va आक्रोश दैन्ययोः. So both of these sutras are there. The first one gives it compulsorily, the second one gives it optionally. These are the sutras of Angakaryam. At this particular point in Tripadi, we don't care which sutra gives the dirghadesha. All that we care is if the dirghadesha happens or not. So if the dirghadesha happens, it will be nakara. If the dirghadesha does not happen, it will be takara. So yatra etabhyam sutrabhyam means these two, either of them. Yatra etabhyam sutrabhyam angasya dirghadeshah bhavati tatra nishtha takarasya natvam api vidiyate. Simple sutrartha. So if you have kartari or adhikarani, which is non-nyatta, then kshi becomes kshi, then kshi plus ta will become kshita. Why did I say kshina? This is a blunder. Kshi plus ta will become kshina. Because dirghadesha happens, the nakaradesha will also happen. Dirgha bhave natva abhavaha. Dirghaha yatra nasti tatra natvam api na bhavati. So kshi plus bhava karmanoh kta vadamaschit kshita. So understand, this is a huge typo. This should be kshina. I'll fix this. And then dirgha bhave natva bhavaha. This is kshita. And then vakrosha danyayoho is causing an optional dirghadesha. So the rule remains the same. If one branch gets a dirgha, in that branch there will be natva. If the other branch does not get a dirgha, there will be no natva. So akroshe gamyamane, this middle line, akroshe gamyamane tu dirghaha bhavati chet natvam. And then obviously it will be na because shra is there. So kshina dirghaha na bhavati chet ta. So rasvadeshah bhavati. So kshitam no chet kshinam. Dirghaha nasti chet natvasya abhavaha kshita iti apyatra rupam siddhati. Let's read the commentary. Kshiyaha dhatoho dirghad uttarasya nishtha-takarasya nakaradeshah bhavati kshinaha kleshaha. Kartari prayogah asti. Kshinaha jalmaha. Jalma, bad person, dushtaha manushtaha. Kshinaha jalmaha. Sarvatra kartari asti. Kshinaha tapasvi. So kshi is become weak. Kshaye. So Klesha have become weak. The bad person has lost his power. Kshinaha tapasmi and so on. So somebody is asking a question: is this kshina in bhave? No, this looks like a bhava, but this is actually kartari. Kshinaha kleshaha. Kshinaha jalmaha. So kshinam iti bhavena prayujyate. Tatra kshitam ityeva prayujyate. It's written over here in the commentaries. क्षियः निष्ठायाम् अन्यदर्थे वा आक्रोशदैन्ययोः इति दीर्घत्वं दीर्घे कृते एव निष्ठानकारः दीर्घात् इति किम् अक्षितम् असिमामे क्षेष्ठाः अक्षितम् इति तप्रत्ययो भावे. So answer to somebody is asking, is kshinam in bhava? No, it is not in bhava. Kshitam is in the bhava. So a is the negation that's used in the prayoga. So kshitam iti ta pratyah bhave bhavascha nyadarthaha. Bhava is included in the nyata, which is essentially bhava karmani. So dirghasya abhavaha atasya natva bhavaha. Dirghat kshiyaha nishthatasya naha syat kshinavan iti kartari prayogaha bhava karmanoho tu kshitaha maya kamaha iti prayogaha drishyate. Agre gacchamaha. So that's the discussion about the kshi dhatu. The only point to understand is not here in the Tripadi. So that was about the kshi dhatu, kshiyo dirghat. The only point to understand over here was the dirghadesha done in the step of angakarya is directly impacting the nishthanatvam in the tripadi karya. The next dhatu is shyaha asparshe. Here also you can see a certain karya we have already seen in the anga karya, just like kshiyo dirghat. Let's look at that karya first and then let's come back to this nishthatakara. So if you go to again the step on the anga karya, there will be a sutram somewhere, dravya murti sparshayoho. Where did it go? It's related to samprasaranam, I think. Dravya murti, it's here. Dravya murti sparshayoho shyaha. So again in the same sutra, same sheet number 7, we have seen this particular sutram in the step of samprasaranam. Dravya murti sparshayoho shyaha. Shayi iti dhatuhu asti. Asya dhatoho vishishteshu artheshu samprasaranam bhavati. So this is the same shayi dhatu that is being discussed in this next sutram over here, the shaying. Here in the tripadi step we have shaha asparshe. The shay dhatu which is present over here is the same shay dhatu that we were talking about in the step of angakaryam for the samprasaranam. Right, somebody is pointing, it is dravamurti and sparsha, so that's exactly right. Now look at this particular aspect. There's something subtle thing going on over here. Look at this dhatu shaying. In the first step of prakriya, we are going to have adecha upadeshe shiti, obviously, and therefore shaying will anyway become sha. Now, as soon as it becomes sha, something should ring in our mind. So, first of all, this is a sanyogadi dhatu. Second, this is a yanavan dhatu. Ya is there. And third, this is akaranta dhatu. So, sanyogadehe ato dhator yanavataha ityanena sutrena अस्माद् धातोः विहितस्य निष्ठातकारस्य तादृशः अपि नकारः पूर्वमेव उक्तः अस्ति. So actually the game is very simple for shay dhatu. We already have a sutram called sorry, where did it go? This one, forgot. Sanyogade rato dhato yanvatah. By this particular sutram, just like styayi becomes styana, shyayi would become shyana. So that's actually very simple. Shyayi dhato gato dhato ho adecha upadeshe shiti ityanena akaradeshe krute sanyogade rato dhator yanvata ityanena iva nishtatakarasya nakaradesha bhavati. So a lot of part has been already simplified. Where does the complexity come? The complexity comes when the samprasaranam happens, which I just told 1 minute ago. So when the samprasaranam happens, the shay gets converted into she. So first of all, you have shay. It anyway has become sha, but because of the samprasaranam, it becomes she, and then halaha iti dirghe krute she iti bhavati. So if you have a samprasaranam, then there is no more akara that is left over there. As long as you don't do samprasaranam, akara was anyway there, and therefore the nishthanatva was happening. Why I am saying as long as you do samprasaranam versus don't do samprasaranam? Because samprasaranam over here was specific to certain cases. Dravamurti sparshayoho shyaha. So when we are talking about the solidification of a liquid, or when we are talking about some cold touch, only for those two particular aspects the samprasarana was told. Or when there is a upasarga, prati upasarga, for that particular upasarga the samprasaranam was told. So samprasaranam was told only for few cases, not for all cases. So in all the other cases, except for dravamurti and except for sparsha and except for prati upasarga, in the next sutra there is a vibhasha, abhi, avapurvasya. So except 3 sutras basically, except for conditions listed in these 3 sutras, there was no samprasaranam. Because there was no samprasaranam, all the way till the end, the shya form remained as it is, and therefore by sanyogade rato dhato or yanvataha, we could easily do nishthanatvam. So that is the simplest part. When samprasarana happens, the complexity starts. When the samprasarana happens, the a is no more seen, it gets converted to e. At that particular point in time, there is this additional sutra given for doing for doing the nishthanatvam on a subset of those entities. Understand this once again, and then I'll talk about the details. Case number one, samprasaranam does not happen. In that case, we don't have to come to the current sutram. Sanyogade rato dhatori anvata itself takes care of it. Case number two, samprasarana happens. Now, out of all those places where samprasaranam happens, a subset of them gets the nishthanatvam. Other entities don't get a nishthanatvam. That's what is being discussed in this sutram. Let's now read. Shayin asya dhatoho adi chopadeshe shitityanena akaradeshe krite संयोगादे रातो धातोर्यणवत इत्यनेनैव निष्ठातकारस्य नकारादेशः भवति. That is the simple case. परन्तु यत्र शयि धातोः सम्प्रसारणं भवति तत्र सम्प्रसारणात् अनन्तरं दीर्घादेशे कृते शी इति सिद्ध्यति. अस्य आदन्त अभावात्, it is no more आकारान्त, so अस्य आदन्त अभावात् संयोगादे रातो धातोर्यणवत इत्यनेन निष्ठानत्वं न प्रसज्यते. Obviously आकारान्त condition is not satisfied. अस्यां स्थितौ स्पर्श इति अर्थं विहाय अन्येषु अर्थेषु निष्ठानत्वं भवति. So samprasarana happens for two cases, dravamurti and sparsha. Out of these, sparsha no natvam, dravamurti there will be natvam. Pretty complex but convoluted, but that's what he puts. Basically, he's want to justify the existing prayogas. So स्पर्श इति अर्थं विहाय अन्येषु अर्थेषु कृदन्तस्य निर्माणं करणीयमस्ति चेत् शो स्पर्शे इति सूत्रं प्रारभते. So let's take all the samprasarana related three sutras one by one and understand what happens for them. Let me repeat it for one last time. Samprasaranam nasti chet asya sutrasya prasaktihi nasti संयोगादे रातो धातोर्यणवत इत्यनेनैव तत्र नत्वं भवति. परन्तु यत्र सम्प्रसारणं विद्यते तत्र त्रिभिः सूत्रैः सम्प्रसारणं भवितुम् अर्हति. अतः प्रत्येकं सूत्रस्य विषये इदानीं चिन्तनं कुर्मः. The first one is द्रवमूर्ति स्पर्शयोः श्यः. So शयि धातु undergoes a samprasaranam when we talk the concept of solidifying a liquid, or we talk about the concept of a touch. So for example, oil or ghee becoming solidified, or a cold touch. So द्रवकाठिन्यम इत्यस्मिन् अर्थे यत्र संप्रसारणं भवति तत्र नत्वं भवति. So shah asparshe is the sutram that we are discussing currently in the Tripadi. Shah asparshe, non-sparsha related aspects. So anyway, samprasaranam will be there, because if samprasaranam was not there, we already filtered it out. So now samprasaranam is there. In all those cases, non-sparsha cases will get the nishthanatvam. What is non-sparsha? Obviously dravamurti. So dravakaఠिन्यम अस्मिन् अर्थे किं भवति? संप्रसारणं भवति, तत्र तदनन्तरं निष्ठानत्वं भवति. So shayi on doing samprasaranam will become shi, and then kta will become na, shinam ghrutam, solidified ghee iti artha, shinam ghrutam. But if you take the sparsha meaning, last bullet on the slide, yatra sparshaha iti arthaha asti, tatra tu sho sparsheti nishthanatvam na bhavati. So samprasaranam is going to happen anyway. So shayi plus ta, shayi will become shi, shi plus ta does not become na, shitaha vayuhu. Basically, very well-known words are being derived over here. Shinam ghrutam tatra davamurtihi asti, shitaha vayuhu tatra sparshaha asti. Let's take the second sutram in the list, prateshta. We had three sutras for samprasaranam. Prateshta ityatra kim bhavati? Prati upasarga purvakasya shayin dhatoho samprasaranam. So prati plus shayin dhatu is used to indicate a disease, a roga. That has nothing to do with sparsha. So specifically the cold touch. So asparshe iti nishthanatvam avashyam bhavati. The context is different. It is not related to the sparsha context. So natvam bhavati. Prati plus shayi plus kta. Shayi on doing samprasaranam will become shi, because it is asparshe. So ta will become na, pratishminaha rogaha. Similarly, the next sutram, vibhasha abhi avapurvasya. Abhi and ava upasargas, they give a context which is neither dravamurti nor sparsha, but something else to go, for example. So, abhi नोचेत अव उपसर्ग पूर्वस्य शैं धातोः संप्रसारणं तदनन्तरं निष्ठानत्वं प्रतिशीनः अभिशीनः अव प्रति unnecessarily I repeated the example अभिशीनः और अवशीनः इति अत्र रूपं सिद्ध्यति. In this way, all that we have to care is that when samprasarana happens, only then this particular sutram is appearing. If samprasaranam does not happen, the sanyogade-rato dhatoryanavata has already taken care. Somebody is asking, why is dirgha ikara coming over here? First, it is dhrasva ikara, and then there is a sutram halaha. It's written all the way 642. Hal varnat parasya samprasarana nirmita varnasya dirghadeshah bhavati. So shai, sha becomes hrasva shi becomes dirgha shi. So as soon as samprasaranam happens, the first thing that you have to care is whether a dirghadesha happens or not. I mean, even before that, you have to do samprasarana chaiti ekadeshaha, parantu tadrisha kriyate chet tadanantaram hal varnat parasya samprasarana nirmita varnasya dirghadeshaha halaha ityanena karaniyaha. So basically, before we go to the actual discussion on the sutram, on the next slide, there is a very nice table that I have represented. It will actually help to understand. We have three different meanings. We have the meaning of drava kathinyam, we have the meaning of sparsha, and we have the meaning which are not related to drava kathinyam and sparsha. Why I have created these three columns? Because for anye arthaha samprasaranam will not happen. I mean, prati and ava and abhi are exceptions, but I have not taken those into account. I'm just talking about plain dhatu. The cases of prati, abhi, ava are very simple. You'll always have the samprasaranam. The meaning doesn't come in the picture, and therefore you will have the nishthanatva because sparsha is not coming in the picture. So that part is extremely simple. The complex part is for the simple shai dhatu. So in the meanings other than dravakatithnyam and sparsha, there is no samprasaranam. Because there is no samprasaranam, sha will remain as it is, and therefore sanyogade rator dhator yanvata iti nishthanatvam bhavati. So this is the case of non-samprasaranam. We do not get show a sparsha sutram over here because sha akaranta dhatu is already there. In the remaining two cases, whether it is dravakatithnyam or whether it is sparshaha, dravamurti sparshayoho shaha will give the samprasaranam. So on doing the samprasaranam, this is only the partial prakriya shown over here. On doing the samprasaranam, shai becomes sha becomes she becomes she. Similarly, shai becomes sha becomes she becomes she. At this particular point in time, nishtha takaraha in tripadi looks at the form. It says this is related to dravakathinyam, so let me do a natvam. Ta becomes na, she na, show a sparshe is the sutram. Then the second form, it is related to sparsha. No, I don't have any other sutram. Show a sparsha explicitly says a sparsha, so I cannot use it over here. So she plus ta is shita. So three explicit conditions. For dravakathinyam, there is a samprasaranam followed by natvam. For sparsha, there is samprasaranam but no natvam. For other meanings, there is no samprasaranam but there is natvam. And you can extend this table for those special cases of prati, abhi and ava, where you will have samprasaranam and you will have natvam. So they will be similar to dravakathinyam. You can also write here prati, abhi, ava and so on. So this table, I think, very beautifully captures the relationship between samprasaranam on one side and nishtha-takarasya nakara on the other side. This kind of relationship is not very clear from the commentaries, but now that we have the whole background, it will be very easy to understand the commentary. Let's read it line by line. Shayatehe ityukte shai dhatu. Shayatehe uttarasya nishtha-takarasya asparshe nakaraha adeshah bhavati shinam ghrutam. So all the examples that he will give are related to samprasaranam only. Shinam ghrutam, shinam medaha, shina vasa. Vasa is fat or whatever. Meda is also fat. So shina vasa. Asparshe itikim shitam vartate. Shitaha vayuhu. So he's giving an examples of asparsha. Shitam udakam. गुणभूतः अपि स्पर्शः नत्व प्रतिषेधस्य संप्रसारणस्य च निमित्तं भवति. So शीतम udakam is a different kind of sparsha. Sheetah vayuhu is a different kind of sparsha, but still both have a cold sparsha. So he explains that part. Gune cha sparshe pratishedhoyam na roge. So somebody might say pratishina ityatra kashana disease asti, that disease might get spread by touching or whatever. So those types of things are not to be accepted over here. Is the actual sparsha, which is the guna present in the particular padartha. The vayu inherently is cold, or jalam inherently is cold. So that particular gunam is what we are talking about, not the process of touching, is what he explains over here. गुणे च स्पर्शे प्रतिषेधोयम अन्यत्र नास्ति अतः प्रतिशीन इत्यत्र अस्पर्शे इत्येव स्वीकृत्य नत्वं भवति. Kaumudi Pashama, in none of these examples he even talks about shyana, because only when the samprasaranam happens that particular sutram show asparshe can be executed. Kaumudim Pashamha, shaingaha nishthatasya nahasyat asparshe arthe halaha iti dirgha. Somebody was asking what happens, how does she become she? That's halaha iti dirgha. Shinam ghrutam asparshe itikim shitam jalam. And then he makes it clear in his own style that this has to be restricted to samprasaranam. So he says, Dravamurti sparshayoho kim. Why are we only restricting to the cases of samprasaranam? What is Dravamurti sparsha? It refers to the samprasaranam. That's the place where samprasaranam happens. So we are only restricting ourselves to samprasaranam. Other places there is sayogade rator dhator yadmata ityanena nishthanatvam. So samshyanaha vrishchikaha. The meanings are not drava and dravamurti or sparsha. It's basically constricted or whatever reduced in size because of cold. So shita sankuchitaha. So that's the whole story about this particular shaha asparshe sutram. Only 2 sutras we covered. Let's see how far we go. So we completed kshiyaha dirgha, we completed shaha asparshe. Agre gachhamaha anchaha anapadane. Again, very specific dhatus. Anchu gati pujanayoho iti dhatuhu asti. This table is very useful. I have already discussed about this table. Agre gachhamaha ancha iti dhatuhu. अंशु गतौ भादी इति धातुः अस्ति. अस्य धातोः विषये उदित् अस्ति, अतः यस्य विभाषा इति निष्ठा प्रत्ययस्य इडागमः निषिध्यते. अंशु गतौ भादिः इति धातुः अस्ति. अस्मात् धातोः विहितस्य निष्ठातकारस्य अपादान भिन्न संदर्भे नकारादेशः भवति. I'll explain this part, but let's understand how this reflects in the sutram. Anchaha na apadane, that's anapadane, samasa asti. Anchaha na apadane. Apadana. What is apadana? Basically coming out of something. This is the typical the apadana karaka that we are talking about. So anchu gatau iti tatra dhatuhu asti. So as soon as the gamana kriya is implied, you can have entering into something, entering from something, traveling with the help of something. So all possible karana, all possible karakas are there. You can say karana karakam, the instrument with which you are traveling. Apadana, the entity from which something is coming out. Say adhikarana, the entity in which something is entering. So all these variety of use cases or karanas are acceptable, karakas are possible for the gata dhatu if we are talking about apadana. Then we do not get the nishthanatvam. If we are not talking about apadana, we will get nishthanatvam. Let me give first example of where we are talking about apadana. It's written over here. Apadana vishishta sandarbhe nishthanatvam na bhavati kupat udakam udaktam. Water has been taken out of the well. Kupat udakam udaktam. So udaktam is basically water is being taken out. But this kupat is there. It is talking about the fact that the water has been taken out of the well, and therefore some kind of apadana is explicitly present in the statement, and therefore we say kupat udakam udaktam. Akta iti rupam bhavati. Acha plus ta. So ancha plus kta. Anididam halopadaaya kingiti nakarasya lopaha. acha plus ta chohokuhu iti kutvam akta iti rupam siddhyati. Because there is an explicit reference to apadana, water is being taken out of what? Of the well. There is a clear reference of apadana. Therefore, you do not get a nishthanatvam, the prakriya I just mentioned a minute ago. Other cases, obviously, there will be nishthanatvam. Shakunehe padau samaknau. Shakuni is the maternal uncle of Duryodhana. Many of or all of you will know that he had some problem in the legs. He used to walk limped, or he used to walk in a crooked manner. So there was a bend in his legs. That's what is being mentioned over here. Shakunehe padau sama plus ancha is used to indicate a bend, or say they are in same direction. They cannot go in two different directions, something like that. So shakunehe padau samaknau. There are some dosha in his pada. Here there is no apadana. It's just padau samaknau. Apadana can't even exist over there. There are crooked legs out of what does not make any sense. So padau samaknau. Next example is very interesting. Tasmat nyaknaha pashavaha. The animals went away tasmat. So in this particular sentence, the context that we want to say is tasmat karanat. So obviously, by looking at the statement, it is not clear, but this is being picked from a paragraph where we can say tatra vanhi asid, tatra agnihi asid, tasmat karanat pashavaha nyaknaha. They ran away from the jungle because the jungle was set on the fire. So then tasmat ityukte tasmat karanat agnehe karanat pashavaha nyaknaha. This particular tasmat word, even if it is in the Panchami Vibhakti, it is not talking about apadana. It is talking about completely a different aspect, a reason. Atra tasmat ityasya anvayah karanat iti adhyariyate tena sah asti. Tasmat doesn't mean tasmat pradeshat, tasmat vanat. That's not implied over here. Obviously, you can ask me why it is not implied over here. My answer will be it is in the context. So this particular statement was taken from a story or from certain context. In that context, the word tasmat would mean therefore tasmat karanat. And therefore, even if you see Panchami over here, example is very beautiful. Panchamyah prayogah kritah asti, parantu tatra apadanam nasti. So that's the reason he cannot say anchaha na panchamya. He has to explicitly use the word apadane, because there could be usages of the panchami which are not related to apadana, and we want a nishthanatvam over there. So tasmat nyaknaha pashavaha ityatra tasmat iti shabdasya anvayah nyakna ityanena sah nasti apitu karanat ityanena asti. Anvaya is a direct immediate relationship. Ataha atra api nakaradesha bhavati. When we say tasmat is not related to nyakna, we simply mean it is not a karaka associated with the ancha dhatu, and therefore you get the nishthanatvam. When you get the nishthanatvam, you have ancha plus kta. Aniditam halopadayaha kiniti will give a nakara lopa. Acha plus ta, cha will become ka, ta will become na, akna iti rupam bhavati. So ancha plus ta akna iti bhavati. Apadana vishishte sandarbhe akta iti rupam siddhyati. And ancha dhatu is about two aspects, anche gatau and ancha pujayam. So ancha pujayam ityasya vishayam sutram na pravartate. The reason being that this whole particular section of nishthanatvam is specifically talking about the nishtha takara present immediately after the dhatu without the idagama. So this aspect is not very clear over here from anuvrittis or commentaries, but all these sutras will only give examples where the nishtha takara is present immediately after the dhatu without any intervention of idagama or any other swar over there. So radabhyam tatra, that panchami or sayogadehe atoho dhatoho. So all these panchamis, oditaha, alvadibhyaha, kshiyaha, shyaha, all these panchamis will somehow give you avyavahita purvatva. तस्माद् इत्युत्तरस्य इत्यनेन तत्र इडागमः अस्ति चेत् तादृशं तादृशं अव्यवहितत्वं न दृश्यते. So all these sutras are only applicable when there is no idagama and when the dhatu is immediately followed by the nishtha pratyaya. And therefore ancha pujayam asya dhatoh vishaye idam sutram na pravartate. Anchehe pujayam iti tatra idagamah bhavati. So anchu dhatu comes in two flavors, gatau and nisthayam. I've already told in the step of idagama that anche pujayam is a special sutram 7253 over here. Anchu ityasya pujayam vishayekta pratyay krute anchita iti rupam siddhyati. अस्यां स्थितौ गति इति धातुः अस्ति, परंतु अंच गतौ इति धातुः अस्ति चेत् तु अक्त और अक्न इति रूपद्वयं भवति. This particular aspect is what we studied right now. If there is apadana, we get akta. In the non-apadana case, we get akna. For puja, which is these are two gatau, whereas for the pujayam, we get idagama, and the current sutra is not applicable. Therefore, we get anchitau. Let's look at the commentary and go ahead. Anchatehe uttarapadasya nishtatakarasya nakaradeshaha bhavati. So that's the style of writing, you know. Anchatehe uttarapadasya, immediately coming later on without the hindrance of idagama. Anchatehe uttarapadasya nishtatakarasya nakaradeshaha bhavati. Na ched apadanam tatra bhavati. Apadanam asti chittadrisham na. Samaknau shakunehe padau. I've explained this. Tasmat pashavaha nyaknaha. I've explained this. Anapadane itikim udaktam udakam kupat. So if you just say udakam, you can do the natvam. But as soon as you say kupat, there is an apadana vivaksha, and therefore you say udaktam udakam kupat. And then he talks something completely irrelevant. He says there is a word in Sanskrit language, very well known word called vyakta. But that vyakta has nothing to do with ancha dhatu. It is a different dhatu. Therefore, don't confuse or don't bring in the question of the nakara desha for this vyakta. So vyaktam ityetat anjehe rupam. So if you go to dhatu patha, and there will be an anju dhatu, anja dhatu. So aji bhashayam is the dhatu over here. I think there will be another one. Anyway, so ajibha, this one, any one will be okay. So ajibhashayam iti dhatuhu asti. So that obviously, I mean, vyakta word talks about the language, talks about the expression. So the meaning also matches. So he's saying it is anja dhatu. Actually, there should be another dhatu called anju, which is in the same meaning. So tasya idam rupam asti. Atyetat ajibhashayam iti atra likitam asti. Tadapi svikurmaha. Asya idam rupam asti. This is not related to anchu dhatu at all, and therefore not to be confused with this particular sutram. This vyakta word is an additional piece of information that he is giving out of context. Kaumudim pashyamaha anchoho, anchu ityasya rupam anchoho nishthatasya naha syat natu apadani. Clear and crisp. Agre gacchamaha, the next one. Let's see how many we can go today. Anchaha anapadane. The next one is divaha avijigishayam, and the next one will be nirvanaha avate. So divaha avijigishayam. Diva is the first dhatu of divadigana 4.1. You can, I mean, sometimes remembering the numbers makes sense. Diva is the first dhatu, one of the rare dhatus of dhatu patha where the meaning goes on and on and on. So divu, krida, vijigisha, vyavahara, dyuti, stuti, moda, mada, swapna, kanti, gatishu. Multiple dhatu. Somebody actually pointed me, anja is in the 7th gana. Let's actually see this. If you go to this rudhadi gana, maybe my search was not proper. This is exactly, this is very nice. This is what I was talking about. 7.21 anju is what I was talking about. Vyakti mrakshana kanti gatishu. So there is this vyakti word over there. This is where the vyakta, what Kashikakara was talking. Thank you very much. So this is where the vyakta word Kashikakara was talking about. This is the dhatu that I was talking about, Anshu. And now that I'm talking about this dhatu, let me also share a relevant piece of information. There is a debate on whether this dhatu is udit or udit. So some books write it as Anju, some books write it as Anju. Similarly, for the current forms will be same. Similarly, for the Ancha also there is a debate. Some people believe it is Anchu, whereas some people believe it is Anchu. So these were the two dhatus that we were talking about. Anyway, current sutra, diva iti dhatuhu, क्रीडा विजिगिषा व्यवहार द्युति स्तुति मोद मद स्वप्न कांति गतिषु दीव्यति इति रूपं भवति. चतुर्थगणस्य धातुः अस्ति दीव्यति. So out of all these dhatus, vijigisha, a desire to win, jetum ichha, ityasya etam artham vihaya, other than this particular meaning of vijigisha, in all other meanings, nishtha takara becomes nakara. So Anyeshu artheshu, let's read this description. Diva, krida, vijigisha, blah blah blah. Ayam dhatuhu, vijigisha etam artham vihaya, anyeshu artheshu prayujyate chet, asmat vihitasya nishtha takarasya nakarat eshaha bhavati. So vijigisha iti artham tyajamasche diva plus kta, dyu plus the chho shud anunasik h, obviously you know all this, dyu plus the dyuna. So diva dhatu hokta pratyayanda rupam bhavati dyuna. This is the normal form. So most of the cases, for example, diva if it means lightning, diva if it means happiness, diva if it means say power or ego, diva if it means dreaming, in all these cases, even gati to travel or whatever. So in all these cases, the kta pratyayanta form will be dyuna. The only case where the ta pratyaya does not become na is vijigisha, giving rise to a very well-known word called dyuta. It is the same dyuta in the that we have come across in Mahabharatam. So the dyuta, the game of gambling, is played with the desire of winning. That's the context how this word is somehow being justified. So dyuta ityukte tad सा क्रीडा तत्कार्यं यस्मिन् विजिगिषा विद्यते, यस्मिन् जेतुम इच्छा अस्ति, जेतुम इच्छा अस्ति तया इच्छया क्रीड्यते, तया इच्छया तत्र अस्य कार्यं भवति, तत् द्यूतम्, अस्य क्रीडनं भवति, तत् द्यूतम् इति तत्र शब्दः सिद्ध्यति. So divaha uttarasya. So every time wherever he uses this uttarasya, uttarapadasya and so on, there has to be avyavahita takara. So idagama is always being blocked. So divaha uttarasya nishtha takarasya nakaradesha bhavati, avijigishayam arthe adyunaha paridyunaha and so on. Avijigishayam iti kim dyutam vartate. Vijigishaya hi tatra akshapatanadi kriyate. Akshapatana is rolling the dice. So obviously you have the dice being rolled. Why they are being rolled? To make a favorable move so that we will win. Vijigishaya hi tatra akshapatanadi kriyate. Kaumudi wo nishthat divo. Typing mistake. Divo nishthat senaha syad avijigishayam dyuna vijigishayam tu dyutam. In vijigisha, the first two letters are hasva, the third is dirgha. Vijigisha iti uchyate. So vijigishayam tu dyutam iti asti. The next one, nirvanaha vate, as I mentioned, these five of them, kshiyo dirgha shaha asparshe ancho napadane divo vijigishayam, and the last one, nirvanaha vate. So somebody is saying we learned two words of Mahabharata today, Shakuni Nyaknau and Shakuni Dyuta. So good observation. Agre gacchamaha. Va dhatoho nishtha takarasya nakaradeshaha nirvano vate iti sutram, nir iti upasargaha, va gatigandhanayoho, to flow or to bring the smell, iti dhatuhu, vayuhu vati इति सामान्यरूपेण प्रयोगः भवति. The air flows. So va iti dhatuः specifically only with the upasarga nir. So nir iti upasarga purvakah va dhatuः अस्ति चेत् तत्र निष्ठातकारस्य नकारादेशः भवति avate, when we are not talking about the vayu. Now if va is to flow and it is about the vayu, how can we talk about non-vayu? Basically, because nir upasarga is being added, the meaning will change. The meaning changes. The meaning of nir, so meaning of only va is to gati, gandhanayoho, to smell or to take the smell away, to flow and so on. When nira upasarga is used, upasargena dhatvartha baladanyatra niyate, immediately a different meaning comes over here. The meaning now with nira plus va is to pacify, to calm down, to cease to exist, and so on. So nira plus va iti arthah asti, iti prayoga asti. Nira upasargah va dhatuः तत् निष्ठातकारस्य नकारादेशः भवति निर्वाणः. Nirvanam iti api very well known word for the death or for say further gati. We say nirvanam. So nirvana means to pacify, to die, to cease to exist, to calm down, and so on. Shantaha, suptaha. So nirvanaha agnihi. The fire has calmed down. Nirvanaha deepaha. The light is no more glowing. The whatever. The deepa is no more glowing. Nirvanaha bhikshuhu. He is pacified, and so on. So for very well-known word actually is being derived. Nira upasarga purvakah va dhatuः asti chet avate vayuः iti arthah nasti chet tatra natvam bhavati. So nirvanah vayuः iti na vadamah. Even if the air has calmed down, say air was flowing, there was a tornado and now it has calmed down, we will still say nirvatah vayuः. Specifically for vayu, natvam will not be there. So nirvatah vayuhu, shantah vayuhu, there is no more flowing. Or nirvatam vayuna, कर्मणि प्रयोग सॉरी अत्र भावे प्रयोगः अस्ति निर्वातं वायुना, नो चेत् कर्तरि प्रयोगः अस्ति निर्वातः वायुः. अत्र वायुः इति सन्दर्भः अस्ति, अतः निष्ठानत्वं न भवति. अन्यत्र सर्वत्र निष्ठानत्वं भवति. नकारस्य अग्रे कृत्यचः इत्यनेन नकारादेशः क्रियते. We have studied this sutram, but if it might have gone beyond the memory, we'll talk about it again when we come to 8.4 in Tripadi pages. So nirvanah avate, nirvanah iti nirpurvad vatehe uttarasya nishtatakarasya nakarah nipatyate. It directly gives the form nirvanah. So it's actually a nipatanam. Nakarah nipatyate. न चेद वाताधिकरणः वात्यर्थः भवति. So वात अधिकरणः वात अर्थः. So वात artha should be there. So the artha of the va dhatu should be there. But vata adhikarana, the vayu should not be there as a part of that sentence. Nirvanaha agnihi, nirvanaha pradeepah, nirvanaha bhikshuhu. Avate iti kim? Nirvatah vatena, sorry, nirvatah vatah, nirvatam vatena, and so on. And then he gives a very interesting example where the word vata is also used and the one nirvana is also used. So pradeepah vatena nirvanaha. Here it is not the vata that has is being pacified. It is the vata which pacifies the pradeepa. So there is, even though the statement talks about the vata is vayu, air, the flow of air. So nirvanaha pradeepaha vatena, because of the flow of air, the deepa became pacified. So the pacification act is not on the vayu. The vayu may be part of sentence, but it has nothing to do with the I mean, it might be just the karana or the adhikarana of the pacification act. It's not the one that is being pacified or that is undergoing pacification. So nirvanaha pradeepaha vatena ityatra tu pradeepaha adhikaranaha vatyarthaha. Adhikarana or karana I think is a better one. Adhikarana because tatra vate sthite pradeepaha nirvanaha iti atra artham kartum shaknumaha. Whatever. So pradeepaha adhikaranaha vatyarthaha vataha tu tasya karanam. He has explained it clearly. Vataha tu tasya karanam iti bhavati eva natvam. So the vata is not the one which is being pacified, it is just the instrument of pacification. So natvam iti bhavati eva. Pradipadhikaranah vatyartha. So this means that the vat nirvana dhatu, sorry, adhikarana is not the karaka over here. It basically means that the meaning of the or the field of the nirvana is on pradeepa. So that's what is being explained by pradipadhikaranah vatyartha. The field of operation of nirvana is on pradeepa and not on vata. That's how he has explained it. Pradeepah, Pradeepasya adhikaranah vatyartha. So let's go to Kaumudi. Avate iti chedaha. So nirvana avate. Avate iti chedaha. Nirpurvat. Vatehe uttaras. Vatehe nishthatasya. Natvam syat. Vataha chet kartana. If the Vayu is not the karta, means what? Not the one who is pacifying. That's not called karta. That will be called karana. The one who is being pacified is being called karta, because nirva means to be pacified. So the karta of nir plus va would be the entity which is being pacified. The one who is pacifying would be called karana. So who is helping the process of pacification will be called karana. So nirpurvad vatehe nishthatasya natvam syad vataha ched kartan nirvanaha agnihi munihi cha vate tu nirvanaha nirvatah vataha. The air has pacified. अनेन प्रकारेण अत्र पंचसूत्राणाम् अध्ययनम् इदानीं समाप्यते. पंच इत्युक्ते ओदितश्च इति विहाय श्रियो दीर्घात् शः अस्पर्शे अंचः अनपादाने दिवः अविजिगीषायां निर्वाणः वाते इति सूत्राणि अद्य अधीतानि. Now I actually wanted to cover two more sutras, but in the interest of time I will not. So I wanted to cover Nuda Vidon Dattaghra and I wanted to cover Runamadhamarani. So there were a few more slides, but there's no point in rushing. Samapayamaha. Tomorrow we will have the regular session in which my goal is to finish nishtha takarasya nakara deshaha. So I can't take a luxury of going in the next week again for nishtha takarasya adesha, not nakara desha, adesha. Nishtha takarasya nakara desha is almost over now. One or two sutras are remaining, and then all the remaining sutras. So shushaha kaha, pachaha vaha, kshayaha maha, prastyonyatarasyam, anupasargat phullakshiva krishollaghaha. These sutras and the ones carried over from today. Nudavindotratragha bhyonyatarasyam, runamadhamaranye, and just one quick Vaidika sutra which I'll quickly mention for the sake of completion. Nasatta nishatta anutta and so on. So these sutras we have to cover in tomorrow's class, so that in tomorrow's class the yellow portion nishtha takarasya adeshaha will get over. And then in the next week we will need two more classes, one for this green portion sakarasya shakaradeshaha and other for this red portion nakarasya nakaradeshaha. And following after that are Shtutva, Shtutva, Anunasika, Dvitva, all these you all know. I will quickly mention them. So the plan is tomorrow complete the yellow section, Nishtha Takarasya Adeshaha. Next week, one class will be the green section, Sakarasya Shakaradeshaha. The second class will be Nakarasya Nakaradeshaha. Okay, so homework for today. निर्दिष्टयोः रूपयोः मध्ये विद्यमानं प्रक्रियाभेदम् एकवाक्येन लिखत. So you are not expected to write the prakriya over here. All that I am asking is write down the difference between the forms in one line. Which sutra causes the difference? Where do you see the difference to derive Shina versus Kshita? Which sutra causes that transformation? Now here there are two sutras. One is a Angakarya which will cause a Dirgha, and then there is a Nishtha Natvam, but they are related. So Nirdishtayoho Rupayoho Madhya Vidyabhanam Prakriya Bhedam Ekavakyena. Just reference the sutra, say which form will use that sutram and which form will not use that sutram. Very simple exercise. Ghrana versus Ghrata was not taught today. but it will be taught tomorrow. So you can leave that or you can complete that tomorrow. The next question, ekavakyena uttarani likhata. So again, the first one was not taught today, but it will be taught tomorrow. Vrashta dhatoh ta pratyay krute nishtha kutvam kimartham na badhate. So I have explained this. Samshanaha vrishchikaha, again we have talked about it. Nirvana atra natvam manatvam cha kabhyam sutrabhyam bhavati, and so on. Uttamarana, this also I have not taught today. Again, it's a simple thing we'll talk about today. So tomorrow we could talk about tomorrow. So don't hesitate in signing up for the homework. You can definitely sign up, solve the remaining ones. After tomorrow's class, you should be able to solve the 2-3 questions. Those are that are pending over there. So तदेव अत्र समापयामः. श्वः नियमितरूपेण कक्षा भविष्यति. तदनन्तरं शनिवासरे अभ्यास चर्चा वर्गः. I have not yet sent the final homework sheets for some of you. I'll send them maybe by end of today. So that's it. श्वः नियमितरूपेण कक्षा भविष्यति. अष्टाध्यायी जगन्माता यस्य चित्तात् समुत्थिता वेदानामुपकाराय तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. शब्द ब्रह्म समाराध्य कृतवान्यो विलक्षणं सर्वाश्चर्यमिदं शास्त्रं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. येन धौता गिरः पुंसां विमलैः शब्दवारिभिः तमश्चाज्ञानजं भिन्नं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. धन्यवाद.